Good morning, everybody. And the old benches are clear. Hooray! And these benches originally were made with 4 1x8 boards attached to a 2x4. And you'll notice that the 2x4 extends beyond the cinder block, which means that if you put something very heavy over here, the whole bench can topple. But I solve that very simply by taking my largest, heaviest trees and putting them directly over the cinder blocks, directly in the middle of the bench. And that solves any... I have never had a bench topple over. So. And this stuff is so old and crusty. And then this other bench here was decking, except for this piece, which is now cracked in half. I do have a little bit of a problem here because it won't... You can see the beehive. And I've been messing with the wood over the top of them, and they haven't even cared. But this one piece will not separate from the crossbeam, so I'm going to need to pry it out of there, but that's going to be pretty tricky. I'm certainly not going to do it right now. Once again, most of the major work I'm going to do that will disrupt the bees is going to be super early in the morning before they've even begun to fly. So the rest of the stuff, this decking, is actually completely different wood. This stuff here came from my old neighbor who tore apart the old deck in their backyard as they were flipping the house. And decking is, these are 1x8 feet. And of course the 1 is not really 1, it's like 3/4. So these guys are 5/4 by 6. I think these are 12-footers. So I'm going to need to do it in stages. So the first thing I want to do is to get rid of this section here. And also, I think this cross beam right here will just come right out. Yep, there we go. And then take these loose pieces and send them down even further. I'll have to move some of those plants. Send them down even further so that this cinder block upright is also exposed. Now, eyeballing it, this upright looks pretty level. It's got maybe a little bit of a lean, this way, but it's not leaning the other way. This guy here, I had a bee in my hair. And once again, they don't pose any threat, but I certainly didn't want him stinging me. And that was just because on his way home, he landed in my hair. And he was not happy about it, and neither was I. But I will keep that in. Why not? Right? Like I said, they won't mess with you unless you mess with them. But getting caught in your hair, they think you're messing with them. So anyway, I didn't get stung. So where was I? Okay. So I need to get this upright clear of wood so I can dig it out and straighten it up. This one here is leaning tremendously. And it's also leaning this way, so it's like this. And of course, there's nothing like a level. So that's the next step. Now this whole piece, even though it's entirely crusty, is still going to come up in one piece, and I don't want to have to lift the whole thing. So I've got my hammer here, and I should be able to just pry these babies right up. There we go, see. the wood will just come. So that's the next step, is to pry all the individual 1x8s off of the cross beams, dismantle the whole thing, and then it would be a whole lot easier to haul away. Then the next step will be to take these long pieces of decking, which actually are loose, they're not even attached to anything, and pull them even further that way to expose this upright. And then it will be time to start leveling the uprights. And usually what I do is I just totally take them apart and start over. Take them completely off each other, and then even take the one on the ground and then rake it flat, tamp it down, make sure it's pretty level. Once you've got the first cinder block back on the ground and you check it for level, you can be pretty sure that the whole rest of the upright, the rest of the cinder blocks you place on top, are also going to end up being level. The only bugaboo is the fact that that one little piece right there is still attached to the cross beam, and I just simply cannot risk prying it while the bees are flying, because like I said, I just already got one in my hair. I don't know what I did with the camera because I was too focused on swiping the thing out of my hair. So that should be interesting because I wasn't even looking. So anyway, put it on pause and start tearing this thing apart. The wood is gone, and it's in a pile right here, and the vast majority of it is garbage. Some of the cross beams had very little rot, so I will save those, because sometimes I need like a small piece of 2x4 just here and there, and some of them are rotted really badly, but a couple had very little rot at all. And actually, when I fixed the other bench that I just recorded yesterday, I had to add a little extra piece of wood to make the back bench section, the one little small section, fit, because it was not quite 8 feet. So, and then we have this. I actually made the mistake of pulling the old upright away from the bees, and I did not want to do that. So let's go over here and look at them. So I stuck another upright back there because they were very unhappy, because that green upright right there, if it's gone, then the hive is totally exposed, and they were not happy about that. And of course, we have our cinder blocks here, and I'm going to show you just how uneven they are soon. But this is the upright that was, not the upright, the crossbeam, that was over the hive. And you see this right here? And then there's a couple little things right there. This is called propolis. And it's a glue that the bees use. You can see it's very sticky. And it's a glue that the bees use to seal up the hive. And so when see, and this is the piece that was still attached, and I just couldn't pry it off without getting too close to the bees. So I attempted to adjust it a little bit, and the whole thing came crashing down. So they were not happy, but I was 10 feet away. So the most interesting part was when the one got in my hair. I can't wait to see that video, that part of the video, where the camera's flailing all over, because I was flailing with my other hand, trying to get the bee out of my hair. But this is propolis. And all you have to do is a search, just, what is it, P-R-O? P-O? Propolis, L-I-S. P-R-O-P-O-L-I-S, propolis. And they excrete this as a glue. And it was interesting because there was still a bee trying to fix it. So there we go. So it's garbage too. Although, you know, it does not have a tremendous amount of rot. Some, but anyway. Okay, so now that we've got it all clear. I'm going to take my trusty handheld level, and we're going to see just how uneven these dudes are. And this is an ancient level, so you may not be able to even see the bubble. But so, do you see the bubble? Probably not. But it's way, way up here. So far off level, it's unbelievable. If we go this way, that's pretty level. The bubble's pretty much right. So this one's leaning this way. This one here appears to be leaning both ways. Where's the bubble? Way, way up here again. Way, way up here to bring it level. What's wrong? Stop doing that. Damn it. To bring it level needs about an inch. And it's also this way. It's also not level. Where's the bubble? I can't even see the damn bubble. Yeah, the bubble is way, way up here. So this block is skewed in both directions. And then this is another one. There, it appears to be pretty level this way. Nope, nope, the bubble is way up here. And then this way, same thing. You see there, you can see the bubble. So that's level, and so it's so far off a level. And then this one, so if we look down this way, all three of those cinder blocks are like this. This one is the other way. So go figure. And you can, if we back up without falling over the pile of wood, you can see that three of them are leaning one way and the last one is leaning another way. So go figure. Of course, I live in Florida and it's just all sand. So very, very shifting soil. So I guess we should do the final act on this guy. And once again, the bubble is way up here. And I have the feeling that it's going to be the same. Can we see? Yeah, you see the bubble right there, and that's level. So every single cinder block is off considerably. And so the next step, and I'll probably do that off camera because that's a lot of work, is to just take the whole thing down, take the tower down, take the one that's on the ground away, pull the weeds. I also have some plastic matting here that needs to be pulled away, and then just reassemble them. Oh, the neighborhood cat. See him in the background? So this is a lot of work. And another thing is they're also skewed this way. They're not in a straight line. So I think what I will do is I will run a string line from the very end of the bench, way, way down here. And I think the bees have calmed down by now. Hey? I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, they're just back to their old self. They really wanted that crossbeam. You can see them in there. And these guys are very interesting because conventional wisdom says that if you're going to have a commercial hive, you almost always face the hive so it's facing the equator. Of course, I say that because there are people watching this that live south of the equator. So if I say you face the hive facing south, they're like, no, you don't, because they're in the southern hemisphere. But this hive that once again just showed up all by itself, if you can see, they're coming and going to the north. This is north. This is south here. They are not. Their entrance faces north. It does not face south. So I find that very interesting. Although the hive is thriving. And they're so diligent, you know. They're just there. They're out there. And look at them coming and going. Just coming and going, coming and going. Bringing in pollen, bringing in nectar. And the ones leaving, going to get more. And they're every day. If I was this resourceful and this focused, another one just buzzed my ear. Man, I'd have a whole lot done. I probably wouldn't have all the weeds under my benches. There's even a periwinkle. You see that white flower? Let's go over here. We'll give a tour of my wild flowers. White periwinkle. How this got here? Well, a seed dropped and germinated. Periwinkles are interesting plants because I've tried to actually grow them from seed. Like literally plant the seed and you get nothing. You just have to wait for them to just show up in different places. So that's always interesting. Anyway, so now we have a different view of the hive with that completely different crossbeam. But they seem to have calmed down quite a bit now the crossbeam is back up there. And that crossbeam is not going to stay there. That crossbeam is leaving along with this very, very old one right here. I'm going to completely renew these benches. This part is going to be part 2. And you want to talk about some benches that are in bad shape. My God. So this is going to be part 2 because I don't want to totally disrupt the bees. And where are we here? I want to show you over here. This is the bench that had the fusion technique bald cypress that I showed you how much water the older 2 boards had absorbed versus the brand new. And I was going to let it dry and reseal it and etc. etc. And Mother Nature had different plans because it rained. And it rained quite well, and I'm not complaining about the rain. I can reseal these boards and do the work, you know, sand them down and reseal them another day. I will never complain about rain unless my house is floating down the road. Because we need it. We had a dry spring down to almost the whole state of Florida was in exceptional drought. And even with the rain we've had, I'm not sure we're still even. I think we still are in a deficit for actual rainfall. But of course that can change. So yeah, I did not get to be able to do that because it poured rain. And as you can see, my 2 largest and heaviest trees that I moved from the old benches are directly above the cinder block upright to keep the bench from toppling over. And then the next heaviest tree on top of the next cinder block is my Brazilian rain tree, which I really need to get to because it's beginning to grow. And I've been pinching a little bit. So like right here, I still have the level in my hand. Pinching a little bit. But it really needs to be worked. I also want to get rid of the spines. So the next video that I do in this guy is going to be fairly extensive. Going to do my very best to remove all the spines that I can find. Remove all this new growth to keep the foliage in place. And I also want to repot it, reposition the roots, and move the front just a tiny little bit. But this is a perfect example, once again, of the heaviest, largest tree directly over the upright, which then I can have all these smaller trees at the edge of the bench, which is, actually these benches are 3 feet wide, and the cinder block, if I'm not mistaken, is 18 inches, 1.5 feet. So there's about 8 or 10 inches on either side of the cinder block. But heavy trees directly over the cinder blocks in the middle of the bench And once again, I've never had a bench topple over on me. Well, except in a hurricane, but we will discount that. So anyway, here we are back at the ficus, which also needs an update because it's growing like crazy. And so yeah, the next step is rehab these uprights. And it's a lot of work, so I'm going to do that offline. Try to get them as close as I can to level. And then it will be ready. We'll be ready for new wood. Hooray! So thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with me. I'm going to have a chuckle, I think, when I'm trying to get the bee out of my hair to just see where the camera went. Because I'm recording this, live right now. I'm going to upload it. I usually just upload it to YouTube without even watching it, because I was already here once. Why do I need to watch it again? So, if you like this video, if you're happy that I'm finally progressing with my new benches. Oh, and another thing, I have all the wood. Whenever I go to the big box store that has the culled lumber, if I need, even if I need rubber bands, I still go to the lumber section to see what they've got in the culled lumber section, because sometimes they have some great stuff and 70% off. I'm a junkie for a bargain, so I have all the wood I need to actually create the benches. It's just the work to get it done. So thanks for watching. If you haven't already subscribed and you want to continue to see the progress of this project and all the other trees that I have in my collection, please subscribe and hit the notification bell and leave a comment. And that's about it for today. So I'm signing off. And I'm not sure if I'm going to do another video today of the cinder blocks or not. So stay tuned. We'll see.